that's cool. Project Pope.
Okay, yeah.
Another cool cover. Loads of Joe Haldeman. I'll get to them in a sec. A Choice of Gods. The synopsis on the back looked interesting. Have you read that one?
Yeah. Well, I've read all his novels, so yeah, that's a good one too. And I've got a rough copy of that one. It's pretty rough. It's
been abused.
Yeah.
This was weird. I had to read the back of this because it's called Cat Face. I was like, Cat Face?
It's Macedonia. It's the British edition of Macedonia.
Right. But it did look like an interesting plot, so I got it anyway.
It is. It's a good one.
Cat Face. What's that about? Some Silverberg, The Visitors.
I remember.
Yeah. Oh, is that all the
that cover?
I found a Le Guin that I didn't have. Threshold.
Oh wow, yeah, that's a nice one.
Oh, it's a freaky cover that though. Oh.
Yeah. Hold on. Yeah, it is a bit mad, isn't it? Look at that little guy. Yeah. I broke a cardinal rule actually because there's tons of sturgeon as well. So I've never seen that before.
Huh.
That's cool, isn't it? Yeah, I broke a rule because I don't normally buy a book if it's like really bad condition, and like this, the cover is terrible. But I've heard a lot about this, and I want to read it. So I got this with a really crappy rip through the.
Oh, Dying Inside. Yeah, that is a good one by him.
Yeah, a lot of people say it's one of his best, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a bit. I'll probably buy another one at some point, but at least it gives me a chance to read it. So yeah, and I had loads of Joe Haldeman and got some Harry Harrison and that Sturgeon. So yeah, the Mask of Time looks good and has an amazing cover. That looks good. Look at that.
Oh yeah.
Some of these covers are amazing, aren't they? But yeah, that was
your sound has gone crackly again for some reason. I don't know what's happening.
Do I have to leave and come back again?
I don't. Well, it didn't seem to work very long the other time. Hopefully, it'll bounce back. Hopefully, it'll bounce back.
Okay.
Now, I've heard of that Project Pope. Did it come up in conversation the other day, or am I dreaming it?
That was on the New Worlds November Voxer group.
And maybe Gareth should be in it. I'll have to ask what's
New Worlds November.
I know a few people have left and stuff. And I know he was looking for people.
New World. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'll message Scott Bryant. The Bryants are hosting it, and it's basically just a month of short stories or short science fiction, and the themes I think are going to be aliens, AI/robots, terrestrial, and extraterrestrial. So something that's on Earth and then off Earth, and those are the four prompts for the week.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm up for that. I'll be reading that anyway, wouldn't I? So that'd be cool. I'm gonna turn the TV off, see if that helps.
Are we actually live?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, we are.
Oh yeah, I can see. Yeah, it's 5 minutes in. Okay.
Have we got anyone in here watching us?
Yeah, there's 4. It says there's 4, but nobody's put up any messages yet. There's 6 now.
They're shocked. They're going, "Who's this guy in the middle?"
But yeah, no, I don't know why it's gone back to the crackling. That's the weird thing with the sound, because it was perfectly fine.
Well, it's high usage time in the UK, isn't it? And can be probably.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm to my parents as well, it can be like this, metallic-y, crackly. But we can hear you fine.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's good.
So what have you been doing on your channel these days? Anything you did last month? You've done the Audible. August. You're coming up with another one, the Ray Bradbury.
Yeah, I've set up about 4 or 5 different things. So yeah, the Ray Bradbury thing is going to be a long-term thing. So I want to try and do it in order. And I'll sort of buy some things in the gaps if I can as well. There's a book I'll put on my Christmas list, which is this crime fiction, which is quite cool.
Okay.
Like a selection of, it's like an anthology. But yeah, I've got about 18 of his books anyway, which I can go through. So yeah, that's definitely happening, and that's going to take a while. And I'm about to put up a thing about. Did you see Michael K. Vaughan put up a thing where he was going to go through the Penguin books and then randomly pick?
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to do something like that with a book I've got, which is 1,001 books you should read before you die.
Well, that could be scary. That could be scary.
Yeah. Well, it sounds a bit threatening, doesn't it? But yeah.
Anyway, I just want to say thanks for stopping by, Matt, and if you're still here. But thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you're doing the Bradbury thing, though, because quite independently, Carrie from Very Literary Carrie?
Yeah.
Yeah, we read last month, we read Something Wicked This Way Comes, right?
Oh.
And then we got talking about The Illustrated Man. So we both got copies of that. And then we're reading one story a day throughout this month. And then it was shortly after that you announced it. And we were thinking, it's so funny, there's nothing. And then suddenly things come along at once. And then I think we decided just to carry on reading a story, a day, a week or whatever, until probably at least the end of the year. Because I've got the Everyman Bradbury. Right. Got loads of his stories, but I've never read him before, so it was a revelation to me. And I'm really a science fiction novice, but I'm really enjoying The Illustrated Man. There's some good stories in that. It's
very good. He's very good.
Thought-provoking stuff. Yeah, I mean, the whole idea with I forget the name of the story, but have you read that one, or
which one?
The Illustrated Man.
Yeah.
One of the stories in there about Mars being inhabited only by African Americans. Yeah. And there's the idea that this spaceship is coming and there's a white man on there, and the kids all want to run off and see it, and they go around painting the buses so that it's like white people at the back, and fencing off all the cinema at the back. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Real world stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
But he's got a beautiful way of writing anyway, hasn't he? Because even the stories that don't really have a lot happening in them, they're just beautiful to read as well, I think.
Yeah.
But no, he's great. So
one of the most thought-provoking ones was it's very, very short one. I think it's like 2.5 pages. It's this Mexican guy. He's out tending his field, and he's got this busy road, or normally busy road, and suddenly all these, there's no traffic, and then suddenly there's tons of traffic all screeching north to America. And one of them stops and asks for water. They found out a nuclear war started, and it's affecting the world. And he's like, oh well. And he goes back and continues. His wife said, "What's up?" He's like, "Nothing." It doesn't affect them. It's like,
yeah. I mean, no, it's awesome. That's in Illustrated Man as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called.
So, Gareth, are you going to be reading all the short stories too? Are you going to go strictly chronological, or just the novels, or the?
Well, because a lot of his he kind of had little batches of short story collections between the novels. So I'm trying to read the short story collections as they came out. So there are things someone on my channel pointed out something that I double checked, and he's absolutely right, that Silver Locust is exactly the same as the Martian Chronicles. So. Things like that I'll have to spot, won't I? Otherwise I'll end up doubling up and reading the same thing. This is a very similar story to another one I read in another book.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It depends on the country. It's like we just mentioned Catface by Simak. It's Macedonia. I've got a copy, not that cover, I don't think, but I sort of was pulling it out of the box, and I go, Catface? And then I start reading the back. Oh, I know what this is. And then remembered.
I was trying to figure out. Well, I wanted to find out who'd done the covers, so I'd look up the thing inside, and it would say originally published as, and every single one I looked at had a different title, had a different original title. So it's confusing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, and it's even better when they start reusing covers, the artwork for different books in the different countries.
Yeah, it's a separate entity, isn't it?
That's even more fun.
But then in those days, the covers aren't necessarily relating to, especially if it's just a spaceship. They're not relating to the story in the same way, are they? I mean, that could be anything.
Yeah, well, that's probably was that Chris Foss?
That
should say.
There's it in it, but he's got a style to him, isn't he? It doesn't say.
Okay.
So,
Because there's a lot of British editions of science fiction. They had no clue. They never read the books. They didn't know what the story was.
Chris Moore. It does say on the back, Chris Moore.
It's Chris Moss, yeah. He never. I don't think he never had a clue what the book was about when he illustrated it.
It's just like
that's why
or whatever.
Look at the Way Station one. It's like, that's nothing to do with Way Station, really.
Yeah. Well, I was talking about that copy of City, and I really wanted the one with the robot and the dog on the front. There's like an Alsatian and a humanoid robot that's like an android on one of the covers. I really like that cover, but one day. I think because Chris talking about Fahrenheit 451, because I mean, obviously it's very real, that story as well. I don't know if something Wicked This Way Comes will become reality.
Oh. Some aspects of it wouldn't be too bad. I wouldn't mind shaving a few years off, perhaps, by just riding the carousel backwards a couple of times. But
yeah, oh, what a story!
You also got to remember the carousel in Logan's Run.
Yes, different kind of carousel.
You don't want to ride that carousel.
But what's interesting about that, because I love that book and I love that film. But obviously, what's interesting about that is that the society has got to the point where they believe that's an afterlife, isn't it? And I love that, because they're just killing them off, but they think it's an afterlife.
Who wrote the book?
William F. Nolan.
Nolan, yeah.
He wrote about 4 as well. There's like about 4 Logan books.
Yeah.
I've only ever seen the first one, and even that was after hunting it for ages. So I've never seen any others. Have you ever read the others, Sean? I've
read 1 or 2 of them, and I can't remember how many. So I can't remember. I know I read the second one, but I don't remember anything after that. Because the film's really good, the movie, and then there was a TV series that the usual.
Yeah, well, that was a big part of my childhood, so I don't know. I'd have to see it again, but I did love it when I was a kid.
I loved it too, but I rewatched it. It's like rewatching the Planet of the Apes series. Like, when I watched it as a kid, I loved it, and then I saw it again as an adult. I go, "Oh, this is bad."
Watching Knight Rider or something. Yeah.
Well, I never watched that.
But I was going to say, it's probably one of those things that the first book was great, and then he felt like it was successful, so he would write some others, and probably milking something that didn't need milking, probably, but I don't know. But yeah.
Yeah, well, Mark doesn't know, but it's like in there, the carousel is a ritual that once you hit 30, I think it is, you got a crystal in your hand that changes color as you go through stages, and then it's time to be reborn into a new, and then you get killed.
Now, maybe you guys would know about this, and I've been thinking about this for years. Now, when I was at school, I had an extract from a story or a book that was in some kind of dystopian world, and we had to, I can't remember, it was a test or something, like a reading comprehension, I don't know, but I'm sure it probably existed as a book in the real world. And it was this idea that these kids, when they hit a certain age, they had to take an exam, and to pass the exam was a death sentence, basically. So like they, the kids wanted to study or whatever and all this stuff, but actually it turned out that if they was proved to be smart enough or clever enough to actually pass the exam, especially over a certain point, I don't know, they were eliminated. And I don't know, does this ring any bells? Does it exist as a book somewhere, or?
Well, it exists in the real world. The smarter you are, the problem, they don't want people smart. The politics, the government.
The idea of the dystopia connected to an exam for children rings a bell, but it's very faint, and I don't know if it's
Yeah,
I mean, I might not remember it all completely because it is, I was probably, I don't know.
But it might have been a full story, like, or
Oh.
it might have been a
I don't think so, because I remember it being part of a section on this thing that we were, having to, like a reading comprehension or something. And I just remember thinking, oh, that's it. I don't want to study now because, it's like the worst thing to give a bunch of kids.
Done your reading. What's this about? What's this exam about?
Yeah.
So Chris just mentioned the Circus Dr. Lau. So I think that's Charles Finney. I think his name was Charles Finney. I recently reread that actually because I remember reading it years ago, and I asked my daughter if she was up for buddy reading it, and it was quite funny because it's really outdated, and there's some proper like dodgy language in it. But I really enjoyed the concept, and I liked it anyway. But we kept going. Oh, did you read that bit? That because it's a bit out of date, but I did enjoy it. If any of you guys read The Circus of Dr. Lau?
A long time ago. Off the top of my head, I don't remember. The only thing that I've really reread of him in the past like 20 some years is Martian Chronicles. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. Yeah, there's like Mark was saying, there's lots of allegorical stuff in the Martian Chronicles, isn't there? Stuff that you can see that he's commenting about us, as well as spinning.
Well, the thing is, like when you say something that's outdated, it's like anything that's written, it's like after by the time it's in print, it's outdated.
Yeah, it gets more and more like that because things are changing so quickly nowadays. I mean, the language you use and the way we address each other is probably going to be changing in another 5 years. And then it's the people that are teenagers now will be out of date quicker than we were out of date. So yeah, it's just one of those things, and I think it's good to try and just read them anyway and try and enjoy them anyway. But obviously, for a younger audience, or for a younger readership, it's harder for them because they feel so passionately about the new norms, isn't it? Whereas for us, probably in the middle, if we're in the middle of it, we can see both sides, can't we? So we're like, actually, yeah, I can. It doesn't wind me up as much, so I can finish the book. But for some of them, it might be harder, mightn't it? So I think that's true.
Somebody did an interesting little video about you saying language changing, and I remember this. I forget how many periods he chose, but it was something like a sentence like saying, "Oh, how are you doing today?" or something like this. So that's what you'd say like in the 1950s or the 20s, and then he went every decade, and then he got okay, what's going to be the future? It's
yeah, it gets shorter and shorter. Yeah.
And then it was grunt.
This used to amuse me when in sort of my kind of youth years or whatever, you might say you're up for something, so I'm up for it. Yeah. So you'd say I'm up for it. You'd say, but then fast forward 10, 15 years, I had some young people that were sort of new members of my band, and they kept going, I'm up for. They wouldn't put the it. I'm up for. So does that mean in 10 years' time it would just be I'm up? But it's just really weird they didn't say the up. So the it. I'd want to say, well, what are you up for? What are you on about? But that was the I'm up for. That's just really weird.
When I was teaching in Japan, I used to have the people there ask me, because they learn, kind of almost like a script really. So it's like, hello, how are you? I'm fine, thank you. And you? I'm fine, thank you. And they used to say to me, is that really how you guys speak in England? And I'm like, well, to be honest, no. And they said, well, what do you say? Well, it's like, well, if I walk into a room where there are my friends, it'd be like, all right.
Well, and when people say, "Are you okay?" or "How are you?" nobody really expects that. No, I'm not okay. It's just a way of saying hello, isn't it?
Well, like when I first came to the UK, like the usual thing is, "You're all right." Are you all right? And like to me, if somebody asks somebody else that means that they look like they're gonna have a heart attack or something. And it's like people are saying, they go, "Yeah, I'm fine."
Yeah.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
And then they didn't have a clue what I meant.
Yeah.
And because to me, it's like when you ask somebody how they are you all right? In that tone of voice, it's asking, are you all right?
Well, I always laugh when I came here because how they say "How are you" in Czech is what Borat says.
What does
You know,
he say?
he
Yeah, I know
goes
Borat.
"Jak se máš?" Jak se
Right.
máš? And that's Czech for "How are you?" So
Oh,
it
okay.
really is "Jak se máš." So it's like "Dobrý den, jak se máš?" You know, and for like the first time, every time I was hearing it, it's like, oh.
You were thinking of Borat, yeah. But he comes from a fictional place, doesn't he?
No, he comes from a real place. He comes from Kazakhstan, but he's a
Kazakhstan, all right.
fiction. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
So Killer Cure just said about the language in Victorian stuff, and yeah, I mean, I think with the language thing, it's just about if you can tell from other aspects of the book that it's a bit dodgy, then it's a bit different. But if you know it's a language thing, then it's just because it's outdated, isn't it? And you can just doesn't mean the author or the book is racist necessarily, but if it's that there's messages in there that are a bit dodgy, that's different, isn't it? But if it's just the language, then I reckon it's just something to put up with in that way.
Hi, Mark.
Hey, Mark.
Hi, Mark.
I feel with how are you? I want to answer honestly. Yeah. That's the thing. It's like that's the other thing too. People ask people like how are you? And you're supposed to the reply is just without thought is fine. And then like sometimes when I feel a little I guess I can't think of the word, but mischievous. I'll just my back is aching. I'll just sort of sit down and just drone on for 5 or 10 minutes, and they're like,
"That's not what I meant, mate. I just wanted to say hello." Yeah. I mean, I think that sometimes you can tell if someone's not all right, and if you go, "You're all right," and they go, "Yeah." And then you can go, well, you don't look all right, mate. It's blah, blah, blah. If you say you look a bit drained or whatever, then you can get into a conversation that way, can't you? But
that's the correct word.
Contrarian. Yeah.
But well, I remember one time before I got and I think it was the lead up to my kidney stones. I had to walk a long way because anyway, I had to do a long walking, so I was in a bit of pain, but I didn't know what it was. So I sat down. It was a hot sort of August day, and I'm sitting there, sort of, like this, sweating and stuff. And this woman comes up to me, and she was like, "Oh, like I thought I must have looked really bad," because she was like, "Oh, are you okay? Is everything okay? You don't look that well." And then I just sort of went, "Oh shit, I must really look bad," So I felt a bit embarrassed, and I said, "No, I'm okay." And then all of a sudden, she got stiff in the back and go, "Oh, you're a foreigner," and then started spouting stuff about me not being English, and it's like, so I just said, "Oh, so if I was ill in English, you're concerned, but if I'm ill and not English, you don't give a damn. Is that correct?" I didn't use as polite words as that, but then she went off in a huff.
Oh my God. What a horrible woman.
I know, it's horrible. I was just thinking how nice it was that people still stopped and asked that you were okay.
Exactly.
Wow. Those people exist, don't they?
Excuse me. They just destroyed that image.
Yeah, no, it was just sort of funny because it was like, because I was first embarrassed to have somebody do that to begin with, and then all of a sudden it just flipped it.
Yeah. She should have been.
It's very strange because I mean, even people who are quite, xenophobic tend not to consider even Americans or Canadians or Australians or whatnot as foreigners. So she must have been really hardcore.
But also, I think a lot of time people who are quite xenophobic or racist or whatever tend to hide it as well, and they wouldn't say.
Yeah, that's the thing, and now it's open. Well, the one thing that everywhere that I went, and there was probably only in really, really busy cities like down in London, I don't get it as much, but anywhere smaller, generally because of my weight, I didn't matter when I went out. There'd be somebody screaming at me, like saying something about my weight, something derogatory, calling me fatso or something like this all the time. Every time since I've been in UK on a daily basis. And cars, I've had, beer cans and cigarettes thrown at me and stuff like that from cars thrown at me with a word that goes by. But it's really weird because like and people say, oh, you'll get that more up north. And I'm going, it's less up north. It seems to be more prevalent in the south, but in a city like London, all I do is get people to stare at me. I first noticed this in Milton Keynes, where I'd be walking like this, and there'd be like, I don't know if you've been in Milton Keynes. There's walkways that you could put two tanks down side by side, like they're made that way. So I'm walking on here, and somebody else is walking like this, and then they'll stop, and then they'll go like this around me and stare at me. But they make this huge, like 50-foot circle around me, staring at me. And that was when I first came here, and I was like, "What the hell's going on?" People are doing this, and it's like,
God,
do I look that weird? But then somebody told me that's what it was. It was like I was still getting the people saying words, but it's like get a lot of stares and stuff like that as well. And it's just they just stare, and it's like and I sort of think I don't get out much. What do they do? They must never get out.
It does really surprise me, I have to say, because I know in some places people can be, and horrible, but to be so what's the word? To be so common an experience for you shocks me. It really does, because I always struggled with my weight, and the times that I might have had a negative comment in my whole life would have been, you can count on one hand, At least maybe I just never heard it. I don't know, just walking along.
No, it's constant here. Like people with me. Like I remember being in in a restaurant, and this woman, she we sat down, and she brings back her food, and then she sort of looks at me and then moves, and the woman that I was with says, "Well, he's not catching today." and the woman left. She left the restaurant.
God,
because she didn't want to sit beside me for whatever reason. And it was like, it's just so it's not, it's like I say, it was on a daily basis, going out, doing this, especially around here.
I mean, what you're saying is that, prejudice comes in all forms, besides the race thing, isn't it? And
yeah.
And you having to face that is awful. Absolutely awful. And that's just people's idea of what is normal or should be normal.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, and that's accepted. See, it gets to the point of that kind of thing is acceptable to do and say to people. That's acceptable now. But you say anything else that could be done. But I'm saying in general, it's not. It shouldn't be, but it is acceptable.
Yeah, but it's just ridiculous to me, given the obesity epidemic. I can't speak. Maybe it is COVID, sure. Maybe you're right. Epidemic in the UK, and the amount of overweight and obese people is so much. I mean, I'm sure there's not a family in Britain that doesn't have someone who is, morbidly obese somewhere.
Yeah, but the thing with that what you just said is that goes even deeper, because the problem with that definition is this really weird definition anyway. To be obese, you don't have to be that big to be called obese clinically. Pretty weird. So
it's true. I mean, you're absolutely right, because when I used to play rugby and stuff, and I for example, I went to school with Johnny Wilkinson, who you probably know, right? And we used to laugh because, like, by the definition of obese, where they I forget what it is, your height times your weight or whatever, all this stuff, your BMI. He was classified as obese, but here he was, a World Cup winner for England rugby, only because he happened to be shorter and weighed more than his thing, but there wasn't, fat on him, So
yeah. So I do think that sort of stuff I take with a pinch of salt. When someone says an epidemic, I think, well, if there was different parameters, I'd start believing it. But
you can see, overweight people, without knowing their measurements. But what I mean is, it just seems so common that it surprises me that these people act like it. And statistically, the type of people who do it are probably not so well educated, come from certain places, whatever, I don't know. But
Well, it's
you know, I bet you their own mother or father is probably obese.
yeah. Well, the other thing is too, it's like I think we've talked before, where you know there was a time that racial jokes was the norm, and you see that everywhere on TV, or sexual jokes, about women, and that all the time, and that has disappeared, more or less. But overweight jokes, or that people are short or tall or have red hair, that's all still acceptable. That's all still acceptable.
Yeah, certainly from person to person. I don't know if on TV, yeah, that joke, but definitely from person to person, it seems to be more acceptable. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is wrong, isn't it?
Yeah, people are looking for, you know, replacements. I think that's the problem. They need someone
Yeah.
to pick on, and you know, they've moved from race or gender, and now they're moving to, as I say, people with red hair, which is, you know, to me, if you pick on someone or bully someone for that, there's no difference actually. You know, someone who is a redhead can't help being a redhead any more than someone can help being black, or anyone can help being gay or anything like that. To me, that should count. I think it should be with anything actually like this. I mean, I know the problem with weight is a lot of people say that you have, you know, it can be helped.
Yeah, but you see, that's not the issue. When something is prejudiced against or racist against, that's not the issue. Whether it can be changed or something like that. It's like, even if so what if somebody could change the color of their skin? So then it would be okay to do that, and that's sort of the assumption would be. But you see, to me, it's not what they it's not that whether you can change it or not. It's the effect on the people, the person. It's like, and the stupidity of the person who's saying it. And it is stupidity. It's lack of knowledge or something, and that is
definitely lack of empathy, isn't it?
Yeah.
So.
I was just laughing at Mark's comment there.
I only pick on book reviewers.
Book reviewers from Boston.
BRB. BRF, I guess. Yeah. No, it's just because I think
it's more like at school, Gareth. I mean, obviously, because you deal with older kids, right? So what, 18?
Yes,
16 college or
16 to 18s.
Yeah, I mean, you must come across difficult situations quite often.
Yeah. Luckily, it's not that often, but there are some instances of proper bullying that I have to deal with. And the latest one, the one last year, that was quite a serious thing, where it was quite a lot of the class was about a trans student. So that was an issue where the whole class had to be spoken to, and that was, I mean, it was weird because some of them were mortified, didn't even think it was a thing. Didn't think they were doing it. They didn't think it was harmful what they were doing. So sometimes it's an ignorant thing. Sometimes it's that something goes too far. But yeah, it definitely is still a thing. It's definitely and also, we can sort of start waffling about social media, but these chat groups are really dangerous because people say stuff, and because it's not face to face, they feel like they can say anything and start, name calling and really digging into someone. And it's literally because the power of being in your armchair, not really being anywhere near the person, So I think that's really dangerous now, and and obviously that message stays there as well. So that person that's being picked on can look at that for hours, Whereas if it's speech, it's gone.
Yeah, but that's one thing that I think that the power of social media has gone too far. There's really no power in social media. There shouldn't be. It's what people allow it to be. It's like, the media will catch on to things like, a Twitter storm or all this stuff. You might get 1,000 people on Twitter doing something. 1,000 people out of billions.
Yeah.
Meaningless. It's actually meaningless.
Yeah. But the harmful thing is the people from person to person. It's not so much the celebrities. It's the private messaging. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, and that's where this. I think there's a balancing act here. Sometimes there's going to be people that will do that. When they do it openly and they continue it, then they should be stopped, or things like this. But you've got to build up a thing of not caring for that, because it seems like as soon as somebody says something that the next person feels that it's an insult, feels it without realizing it, because I've been that on the receiving end of that here in the UK, where I'll say something to somebody, they'll go from 0 to 1 billion miles an hour of thinking that I'm insulting them, and I'm going, whoa, what?
Yeah, that's
nothing to do with insult.
Yeah, that is true as well. There's all sorts of things going on, and one of them is this, and I think it's because it is related to social media, because it's because everyone reacts so quickly to everything, and everything's so quick, and therefore because you react so quickly, your reaction is bigger, and that means that it's more like everything seems to be more aggressive, less thought behind it, more instant. And it is affecting young people because of that, because there's this sort of constant battle. It seems to be like there's just a constant war going on.
It's very true, Gareth. I mean, I've had times, even on this on BookTube, where I've had to stop and count to 10 myself, and then once I've left it or I've slept on it, I never make the comment that I was probably going to make and would have done in haste. And it's like it's overwhelming, and actually it can be something stupid. It can be someone who says something probably thoughtless. They don't mean to. They disparage something I hold highly, a book that I really like, for example. Yeah. And they say just such waffle and nonsense about it. It gets my blood up, and I start typing, and I'm about to hit, and I'm like, no, you'll only, or I'll send it and then I delete it, and then, So
it's very difficult to argue by text, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like,
the thing is too, like Mark is right there in the comment that a young person is vulnerable. Yes, but also I think that that people aren't being taught anymore, or children, to sometimes sort of shrug things off as much as possible, to try to realize of where it's coming from, that it's not that. And that's where I think if you don't have that at all, then any little slight could be as big as a huge slight.
One of the issues is that it gets mixed up in their own low self-esteem. So that's part of the issue, that if they'd be able to shrug it off if they felt okay about themselves, but because they don't, it just adds to it. So that's what I found.
Yeah, that's part of society. That's the whole thing of, you've got to be this, you've got to do this, and if you don't do that, you're less than a human being, sort of. That's
I do think it is difficult for kids. Well, it's difficult for us as well, having to play catch up to all of this modern stuff, because if you think about it, these children today, they have far many more eggshells to walk on than we did, right? I mean, you mentioned an issue with a trans student. I'm sure there were probably people in my school and whatever who had these feelings, but they would never have mentioned them. And of course, when it becomes acceptable or normal in the class to have somebody like that, you then have to take into account having to remember different pronouns for people, and not to offend. And I think half the time with the whole pronoun thing, now I certainly understand how somebody can feel upset if the wrong one is used, but I would also like to think that people can a little bit let it go with some people, and just say it does take time to get used to doing that,
No, in my experience, and obviously I get it every day, because every year for the last 4 years I've had trans students in my classes. So every day there's a situation where I am using the right pronoun, and if there's an issue where I have forgotten for a moment, or they looked extremely feminine and I'm supposed to say they or he, then they've always been very good about it. They've always said, oh no, don't worry, and if I say I'm really sorry, slipped up, whatever. So they've always been good about it. So I don't think it's about that so much. It's more about if the intent is bad. So if people are deliberately using the wrong one, or they're using, or literally name calling, or they're saying things like, oh, you're just doing it for attention. That's something that's come up a lot. Those kind of things that can be hurtful. So, and
And the other,
go on,
sorry. The other thing that is sort of that I find difficult is there is these two sides to it, and there's the polarized sides. There's the ones, like you say, that are purposely saying stuff to knowing they're doing this to harm the person.
Yeah.
And then you get somebody, but then you get the other side where, like, you hear this before. Oh, well, you shouldn't say anything that makes somebody feel bad. And it's like, that's such an open statement that is impossible to do.
Yeah, that's the kind of work.
Yeah, there's no way you could do that. But when somebody says this, when they say, well, I don't think, just because somebody wants me to call them X doesn't mean that everybody else in the world has to do that. And there is that issue where you shouldn't have to do that. It should be done in a different way. And then when somebody says, just because you want to be called, Sir, Lord, and Master, I'm not going to do it. I'm sorry. And it's like that person. But as long as they state their reasons for it, but don't do it back, as I say, as a purpose to offend that person. That's, these are different matters. But you see these videos that come out where somebody says, well, I don't really care about that person's feelings. And they say, well, that's a bigot. Well, no, it's not. It's like, how can you care about every person's feelings in the world? You'll never go out your door. It's the same thing as...
You're obviously a very sensitive person.
What?
You're obviously a very sensitive person to other people's feelings.
Well, yeah, I think
there's too much, maybe.
And I don't know what the references you're making, but I would have thought this really is about people that are friends, person to person. People who are interacting with each other at work or in a classroom, like in my circumstances, those kind of things. And in those circumstances, then it is about respecting whatever pronoun they want, isn't it? It's not about, because no one ever goes, call me Lord and Master, do they? So it's only probably turning a he into a she, or a she into a he, or
I mean, how do you deal, Gareth? How do you deal with people when you have, I don't know, 2 or 3 different, let's say, groups, and their interests conflict? So, for example, you might have a gay person in your class. You might have a strict religious person in your class. And perhaps, know what I mean? You can look at some of it as like...
Quite an easy one, to be honest. I think the bottom line is tolerance. So just as that religious person should accept the fact that there's a gay person in their class and treat them like anybody else, the gay person should also not start having to go at the other person for being religious. And, so it's just saying, so I think it's very easy to have that open acceptance, but you have to kind of be willing to have that open acceptance. And if one of those 2 people is saying, well, yeah, but I don't want that person to be in my room, or I can't handle it, then that's interfering with that open acceptance. But it's quite, I think you can do that. It depends how extreme it is, I suppose, because if it's someone that's literally got Nazi ideals, then it might be hard for someone to tolerate it. But you don't really tend to you don't get 16-year-olds that are literally goose stepping around the room. So it's kind of an extreme situation. Most in all situations I've ever been in, it is about just tolerating other people's lifestyle choices, their ideals, their ideology, their beliefs. I think that you don't really get extremes and to be honest, it's probably because if there is an extreme, so say you get someone that they know it wouldn't be tolerated, that they are so far off sort of normality, they'd probably hide it.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is as well, just because somebody believes this and wants it, that doesn't mean the other person has to do that. Like, it's like you're talking about, if everybody has an opinion, but also somebody else has the ability to say you're wrong and say why. And it depends on how that's done. That all depends on how that's done. And that's where it comes, I think,
if you're talking about the specific example of that trans person, I don't agree. I think everyone should call them whatever they want to be called.
Well, if somebody has the belief then that I'm just supposing here, somebody has the belief that that person is not a genetic female, they are genetic male. If that's the case, then they have this belief. So shouldn't their belief be also accepted?
The way that you do the acceptance of all beliefs thing, you can't just go, well, it's tough, I don't believe you. You'd have to just call them by their name then, and not give them a pronoun if you're going to.
That's what I'm saying. But that's what I'm saying. Like you have to accept other people not accepting your belief.
But what
you have to be aware of that.
If you were going to really kind of live the idea of, yeah, but I don't believe it, so I should say what I want, they would go back to their biological pronoun, wouldn't they? And I'm saying that would be wrong, but they could just use their name and never refer to a pronoun.
That's what I'm saying. Like there are these there's ways to deal with this, but it seems to be a lot of times that if you don't agree with me, you are wrong, and you have to agree with me. And I'm saying, no, you don't have to agree with me. All you have to do is respect my belief of this, and that goes for the other side too. That if that person doesn't want to call them a she or he or whatever, and if they don't do it in a derogatory manner, then they have a right to do that as well. Because if they if they're not able to do that, then this whole system just crumbles to nothing. Then nobody has
the right to do what they want, Sean, but it depends on whether you want the class to function properly.
But that's how
if there is somebody deliberately antagonizing someone who's given himself a new identity, then
that's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the person to say, no, well, I'm not gonna call you this, but I'm not gonna call you something bad. I'm gonna, you be what you are, and you accept me for what I am, and that's where you get a détente.
If they say be what you are, you be you, then that's fine, isn't it? It's not going to cause.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But the problem is that it usually isn't that way. Like from a lot of my experience is that if you don't agree with me, then that's it, and that's where and then that's because that view is out there, not by everybody, but it's by enough people. Then the other side gets on their high horses, and then it just escalates from that, rather than say then people. And it goes back to what I was saying about how sometimes you have to have a bit of a hard shell at times to let things pass you by, and not be everything is a major insult. So if you find it as an insult because this person doesn't want to call me he or she or whatever pronoun that I want, that's not the end of my world. That's that person. So I'll accept that person but if they turn around and derogatory talk to me, different matter. That's a completely different matter. But if they say I don't want to do that, then they have a right to.
I'm just wondering how all this works in countries like here, for example, where the language you speak can be gender specific. So it's like you have a teacher, Uchidel, and you have a female teacher, Uchidelka, and yet, how would this work in this situation? In England, we've got rid of, haven't we? We don't say actress anymore. Everybody's an actor. It still takes me time not to call somebody an actress, but that's because, the greater part of my life I've spent saying it. It's natural to me. It's not any sexism on my part calling this woman an actress. It's just what I'm used to, and it's taking me time to get over it. But I do wonder in these countries where gender plays an important part in the language you speak.
Can I just make a point about Words Can Inspire has made two really cool points that I just agree with what they've been saying, that prejudice is learned, and it's youngsters, young people are generally tolerant and quite open to it. But that's partly because they're usually the people changing the norm anyway. So they're kind of riding the wave, whereas people older are going, what the hell's going on? So I do think that's part of it. But yeah, sorry, go back. I just wanted to mention that because we haven't said anything about the comments.
Well, no, I mean, I think it's a rhetorical point because we don't know how it would really work in these countries. I mean, I don't know. Living here, it's a little bit less. I mean, I have had kids ask me about this whole pronoun thing because it's just I don't know. I don't think it's done here yet, really. I mean, and I had to explain to them why they couldn't use it. You know, because they didn't understand why we would use they if we're talking about one person and all this kind of stuff. And I had to say, well, you can't use it because it's basically for, you know, inanimate objects or animals or whatever that we don't know their specific gender. And, you know, it was difficult.
Well, the difficult thing to get used to, I think, is not so much the use of they, because we have used they to mean one person before. That is a thing, but we just didn't do it all the time. That's
it. You know, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
When you're looking at someone, they might look either male or female. You know, they might give you a certain assumption. So sometimes you have to remember what they want to be addressed as. That's the only issue, really. Just trying to make sure you get used to that.
Yeah, and well, that's a difficult part for people because it's on a greater scale when you see somebody like that's what I'm saying. It's like that was partially going back to what people see with me. They have when they see an overweight person, they have all these conceived ideas of that person. Now I realize that. And it's the exact same thing as when you look at somebody and you think they are feminine or they're female. Now they are. They're going to be one or the other to that person. Now, until they get to know that person, they won't know anything about whether they want to be considered masculine or neither.
Yeah,
and that creates problems. So you get, and it's usually not the person that it's affecting. It's somebody else that gets offended for them. There's too many times
happen a lot.
getting offended for other people.
No, I've seen that too. Yeah, I've seen people because, like I said earlier, the people that are usually in the firing line are actually quite, what's the word? Quite cool about it. You know, they go, "Oh yeah, fair enough, you made a mistake, whatever." They're not going to get upset about it, but someone else might be on their behalf. Absolutely, yeah. You get some people just really go for it, and you just think, all right, you know, this spammer lady just wants to offend. That's like George Carlin might have said something like that. I don't know.
But there's a good point in there. I do feel a tendency to want to argue with those people who get offended on the behalf of others, though. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just something in me, but it does annoy me sometimes.
Yeah,
like, look to your own, you know. I mean, I agree with sticking up for people when it's warranted, but just because somebody accidentally calls someone who wants to be referred to as they, he, and then jumping down someone's throat about it, and it's really got nothing to do with you, then yeah, I think that's not legitimate. But if it's a legitimate, like I'm deliberately saying, you're a he, but I want to be there, and then someone defends them, that's legitimate. But just to come in for no reason, and people do it. That's the annoying thing. You could probably you could actually make this mistake on the street, and someone walking past who doesn't know either of you could probably stop in England these days and argue with you about it. So
yeah, it's true.
Yeah, well, and the other thing that's interesting is that if there's people that I know that have transitioned, and I've known them for a long time now. But I want to preface this to everybody's thinks and how they associate things is different from everybody else. So, and that's another thing that people forget or don't allow, that when somebody learns something, they learn it in a different way a lot of times. And it depends on their age, depends on their culture, how they grew up and everything like this. So as I say, there's a number of people that I've known that have transitioned, and I still have difficulty addressing their new identity, because it's hardwired in your brain, and there's nothing I can do about that. Like, even, especially when you're talking like this, it'll come out because it's hardwired. It's there.
Yeah. I just think, I don't know if you found this, Sean, but I just think that if you know these people, then they are absolutely cool with.
Oh, they are. Yeah. No, that's
like making the odd mistake. Go, "I'm really sorry, mate. I know that's not what you wanted," and blah blah blah. Do you know what I mean? I don't think it's oh my god, I can't do anything wrong because they're going to go mental. It is
No.
like, they tend, in my experience, they've always been, no, that's fine. It's a mistake. It's fine.
They are, and as everything I hear of other situations like this, people are. It's again going back to this: the people that are not, they're the outside ones that see this, and they're creating more problem because they will call somebody like this. They would say a bigot or something like that. And so they're using language what they're accusing that person of doing, but they're doing it purposely for that person and without thought.
Yeah, I think there are some people that have the right intentions, but then they become crusaders, and actually they can be damaging to the cause they believe in sometimes.
Yeah,
well, I'm just thinking of British people who still can't get their heads around the metric system. So but it's true, We've been metric for years, and still some people want to, and still cannot. I'm not mentioning any names, but I know somebody who still has to look up, the pounds of a roast chicken in order to roast it because, that's what they're used to.
I understand that. Like when I went to school, it was not in it was in imperial measurements, and then it switched. So like now, when somebody says their height, if they say 5'3", I know what that is. If they say 100 and some centimeters, I don't have a clue. I cannot compute that in my brain. It is not there to do, and I'm not the only person that does that.
Comments are going quite wild, actually.
But Mark's point is Mark just made that point about you learn a lot from the kids, and I think that's really, really essential to all of this.
Yeah.
What was that Kelly was saying?
5'11". This is in my life, and I have I'm having trouble seeing.
Yeah. I'm so sorry. I don't know what is CIS or cis.
Yeah, cis, I don't know what that means.
Cis means born female.
Okay.
So they didn't transition. They were always that. So I'm a cis male because I've always been male.
I gotta find where does that come from, because it's so out of the.
I think it's an acronym. I can't remember, but CIS. I think it's an acronym.
You have done. You
done a great job tackling a difficult subject. A very deep Saturday evening.
Keeping all the double speak straight is very difficult. My ex-grand-in-law, aged 90 years, used to ask, "Who be they?" in their lovely Cornish accent. Did they fit right in?
Well, 90-year-old people are going to find it harder than I am, I think.
Very much so. Thanks, Killer Q. I'm really enjoying it. It's very good.
Yeah,
but words aren't violence, but they can hurt. That's the thing.
One thing I say earlier actually is someone said, might have been Mark, I'm not sure. Someone said that when they were bullied at school, they used to be told to fight back.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to fight back texts, because when I was bullied at school, I was beaten up twice at school, physically beaten up, but I was never bullied by words. And I think in this day and age, online, if you're getting sent messages, how can you fight back? I do think that's really quite hard to fight back. It's easy to fight back in a physical way.
You need to this is a question that it's a legitimate question. Do you need to, or just ignore it? You ignore it for what it is, because if you ignore it, they won't do anything.
You're suggesting all bullying just gets left alone and they can crack on.
No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. Those things are ignored, because if everybody ignores the online stuff, then they won't do it anymore, because they're not getting any rise out of people. And that's online bullying. But is that actually it's to me that's way different than bullying in school and face to face with everybody else around.
It's the new bullying. It's what they do now.
Yeah, but that's where I'm saying that sometimes that I know it is, and I realize that. But you see, the thing is that this is my whole point, is that I don't think people are being taught, young children are being taught to take stuff in context, and to say that is not, It's not the same.
I
It's
think it can
different.
be worse.
I don't know.
I think it can be worse because it's still there. When someone punches you in the face, right? You can't. An hour later, you don't feel that punch in your face. When someone sends you a message or there's some chat group happening slagging you off, that's still there a day later. That's still there a week later. Do you know what I mean?
That's true. It's true, and it's there for everybody to see as well, depending on the platform. So it's not very nice, but it does put into perspective that when I was a kid, we were always told the whole "sticks and stones may break my bones, but words on it." And now it's like,
there's another. See, just because it's there, see that's another issue. Okay, then you tackle that. That gets taken down. That gets taken down. So these are the things that can be easily done, but there's other things that are happening in the background that people are, I think, becoming too sensitive what people say. Because for instance, you get a politician that becomes president of a country that is totally inept, and for instance, if nobody ever went to the news conferences, no news station ever reported on him, anything stupid that was said. How long would this last? I know it's a utopia, but how long would it last? That has more power than anything anybody can do.
If we're going to go with Trump, I mean, it definitely is true that his entire career was fed by people thinking it was good TV and good Twitter and good social media. It was awful. You know, I mean, you're right that he was fed by people being interested in the nonsense. Absolutely. And
the thing is,
wouldn't have been as powerful if it's been ignored.
Yeah, people have so much power and they don't realize it, but they just have to work together for it, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
I think Mark's right there. He's got a comment saying online bullying has cost lives, and that's true. It has, and there's a horrible, rise in it. Really.
Where I'm way behind on comments here, so.
Yeah, I mean, the sticks and stones phrase was something that we grew up with, but that's because it was this is what I was saying about, this is a lighter point, but when I said that, I miss magazines, I think it's a shame that magazines aren't sold anymore, that's because it was important to me. And in a similar way, it's from a different generation. And words won't hurt me. That was true when it was words said, but when it's words typed on something that's permanent, it's different. Yeah, online bullying is very different from someone just calling you something on the playground.
But that's what I mean. Online bullying has cost lives. Yes. But the thing is, how do you react to that? That's what my question is. How do you react to that? It has. People will. Other things have cost lives. In many ways. How do you react to that? Do you then ban that one thing that is the medium?
Yeah, but what Mark's saying is that it costs lives, as in people have committed suicide because of it.
That's what I'm saying, and that's where if they didn't think that it was that important, it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah,
well, it's a different way to look at it.
But you're proving yourself wrong, because the point is that it was important. It did affect.
But that's what I'm saying. But they need to be taught that it isn't important. So that's how you tackle it. You don't tackle it maybe in different ways. There's different ways to tackle this. How do you solve it?
Sean, imagine I'm having a meeting with a student who's contemplating suicide, right? And I go, it's all right, it's not important.
That's not what I'm saying. That's nothing to what I'm saying. See, this is the thing, being taught. Once the person is that point, that you've got to deal with it a different way. But if you start teaching people from earlier that these things don't matter, the less impact that it will have, I think, on people. And that's the whole thing, because people all the time look at the end result and then look at, how do we deal with this? You need to deal with it, but look at the cause of it and then start dealing with the cause of it to change. So therefore, there's no end result for that. That's not easy. That's not easy to do. And people don't do it because it's not easy and because there's no will to do it. It's because that is stuff that happens in the background. It's not up in the headlight. I mean, in the lights, and the people who do that are never remembered. The people who do something flashy at the end result That's how things get. That's what gets done, rather than actually tackling it in maybe 3 or 4 different ways and at different periods of the development of the person. In this case, I don't. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure. But I mean, there is a problem with the young. There's a what's the word? Disproportionate amount of depression and anxiety in young people at the minute. It's crazy. It's a proper epidemic. The that is all in the mix of any time they get any kind of hassle or verbal violence, if you want to try and add more words to it to make more sense to Steve, anything like that, then it's all mixed up in their own low self-esteem and anxiety and that sort of stuff. There's so much of that now. It's quite serious.
Yeah, and that's the problem. It's the low self-esteem. It's all that's the problem. Now, once you've got that ingrained in people, that has to be dealt with. But then if it's continually happening, then doing it at the end is not helpful.
I mean, Kelly's right as well, that sometimes, because that is part of our zeitgeist now, and everyone's talking about mental health and bullying and stuff like that. Kelly's right that sometimes people use it to their own advantage as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a cool name for a channel.
What I'm trying to catch up here with stuff. Online bullying has cost lives, yes, but it in itself hasn't killed anybody. Words aren't violence.
That's just pedantic.
Let's just try to get caught. Need the civil.
Well, I mean, words certainly incite violence, don't they? I mean,
yeah, exactly. Well, violence against yourself as well. That's the point of what that was.
Well, I mean, look at what's his name. In that January, was it January 6th? I can't even remember now. His words did a lot of damage.
Words are very powerful.
But I use an alias, Steve. How could you possibly know?
No, I'm sort of caught up. No, it's just there seems to be something in that's always been in society, and you can see this, and it seems to be getting more is to like people have said it in many ways of it's like don't cure the disease, cure the they don't actually cure something that is the cause of it. They are working on the things that happened after, like when you talk about the mental health, all this mental health stuff, it seems the majority is how to manage the people that have it now, not to try to change it from the beginning in coming up. There doesn't be any money for that.
I mean, I think it's difficult to quantify what it is, though, but I do think there is a problem with the way people are growing up. I'm from the Generation X, so there wasn't the internet when I was younger, and I do think it's easy for me to blame it on that, but I do think that the way that everything is happening so quick and it's all online, it's all messages, it is dangerous, and I think I've seen lots of evidence of that. But how do you go backwards? It's difficult.
No, I say you don't go backwards. What you do is you start anew with looking at stuff, and that's generally what isn't done, because again, there's no impetus to do it. People don't want to do it. People don't want to change.
I think people are trying to think of ways to deal with it, but it's just hard because it's such an ingrained problem. And
yeah, but there's no money for that. There's no money for that kind of stuff, because every time you get governments that put any kind of money into trying to get sort of arts programs or get young people to do other things and have places for them to go, that gets nixed all the time. The funding gets pulled. See, these are the types of things that aren't being done, and these are the types of things, that's where it may not help the current generation, but it could help the third or fourth generation down the road. It's not going to even help their children that are growing up, because they're going to be passing on these traits to their own children. And it's not, I'm not saying you try to I can't think of the word, my brain is not engaged. mind change the change their minds of stuff, forcibly. What's the word when somebody gets kidnapped and they mind wash them? Brainwash. Yeah, like I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is changes in how people do things, like getting those energies other place, and that doesn't happen overnight. That takes generations to do, and there
it's taken a generation to be where we are now, for young people to be like they are now. So it does.
Yeah. That's the thing. But you see that has been done because there's been no care to it. There's been no care, or very little care to what the end product is going to be. And any time that there is, as I say with these programs, they get chopped. They just get chopped. And that's where I'm saying that yes, these things happen, but it's the response that I think is the problem. It's always the response to these things is the problem. It might help, like it's like putting a Band-Aid on a big cut. It might help the bleeding to begin with, but it's not going to help the source of it. So all it's going to do is the next time it's going to happen again and again and again. So go to the source, try to change the source. And that's not easy in any shape or form. I'm going to go back to...
I just was in the comments. People are asking who Gareth is and what his channel's called. We should
Hello.
Because Gareth, you have only your name there. You haven't actually got your channel name down there. So,
Steve just picked up on me saying it was pedantic. He's clearing up what he's saying. And I get what you're saying. I just think that it's a bit flippant to say that words aren't violence, because clearly they can lead to violence and violence against yourself. So that's why I said that. So my book channel is Books, Songs and Other Magic, and I love the fact that you two have asked me to join you. It's great because I watch you guys all the time, obviously, and we've been messaging loads. So I wasn't trying to be dig me in, Steve. It was just it's quite an important statement to say that words can be violent, because it's a lot deeper than just saying that the word itself is violent. It's a lot of layers to that statement, isn't there? Book, songs, and other magic.
No, I'm not bored, Mark. I don't feel very well. I've been kind of fighting off getting a cold or something the whole week, so I'm just like...
Okay, bacon isn't a heart attack. I'm going to definitely agree with bacon isn't a heart attack. And thank you for saying...
it's the whole guns don't kill people thing, isn't it? People kill people.
Yeah, still means you need to sort out the guns, doesn't it?
But the thing is that all those statements are true, but there's more to it than just that. It's like there's
always more to it than one statement, isn't there? So.
Yeah, that's the thing, and but the problem is that it's never dealt with. The results are always dealt with, the results of anything rather than the causes in general.
If we're still talking about online bullying, I don't know if we are still, but if we are, what I've found is that the people doing it, they say that they can't remove themselves from the devices where these things are happening. They are absolutely tied to their phones, and they can't separate themselves from it. And that's
that's a problem in itself. So that
exactly.
should be dealt with.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I'm saying is a really big problem, that we never had that problem because we didn't have a phone like that, and we didn't have that kind of attachment to something that is by design made to be addictive. Like the whole point of the way that those apps work is to make you addicted to them. So it's by design. So I do have some sympathy for them from that point of view, but I desperately want them to get off them because they can be so dangerous. They're not dangerous, but they can be dangerous. Yeah.
That's where I'm saying that's where there doesn't seem to be any will to do that, because if you just look at economically, how much money are these things generating, and the people that are running these things. You just look at all this. They don't want people off, and it goes back to what Mark said about that story where if you pass this test, you're too smart, you get killed. So they don't want people to be smart. in the society. They want them addicted to this. And it's like, yeah, that's not a conspiracy theory. It's just, if I could think of it, other people have used this type of stuff along with all sorts of other things to get people looking at different ways and get them their minds focused on something else rather than other things. And that's where you need to work at to do something. And there's no will, there's no money.
Yeah. Can I just say, Mark, you just when you first said about that story, I don't think there was as many people in the group watching, was there? So do you want to try it again? There's more people here now.
Yeah, I mean, I was just telling at the beginning the people who were here that I remember years ago as a kid, I did like a reading comprehension, and I always assumed it was taken from a more popular story or a book or a complete work. And it just had this premise of these children preparing for an examination. And of course, they were preparing seriously for it. And the issue was, it was a kind of dystopia. I can't remember if it was on like a spaceship or some dystopian world, but they basically children who passed the examination were exterminated. So it was actually better that the children failed. So the idea was the children shouldn't have been seen to be too clever. And I just wonder if anybody watching knows if it is actually a book or a story and what it might be called, or whether it was just done specifically for this test.
Yeah, so hopefully in about 20 seconds we get someone to tell us exactly what the story was.
Yeah. No, I thought it was worthwhile bringing back because it's like like what I said before, because governments don't want people to actually think, because it's detrimental to them. It is detrimental. When you question,
you can mention George Carlin again. That's what he said as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
George Carlin did a whole routine saying that governments want people to be stupid, and there's a lot of truth in that. You know, it's not completely true, basically, but there's a lot of truth in that. There you go. It was a dream you had.
Yeah. Maybe it was Steve's memoirs that I had started reading at an early age.
I was hoping Steve would actually know the story, but
yeah, obviously it doesn't exist.
How many people are watching at the minute? Because I don't have the same.
There's 16. There's 16.
16. Oh, hello.
Yeah,
hello, 16 people.
No, we got off on like a real. That's not to the plan, but that's what.
So, what are you reading at the moment, Gareth?
So I was doing a buddy read with Ollie, reading Cujo. So
I
finished that.
Steve's favorite writer, isn't it?
Yeah. I really liked it. Ollie really liked it. I thought it was a nice. One of the things that was weird though, which I will, I'm going to do another King videos like next year. But when I talk about Cujo, I will say that one of the things I kept thinking about was the fact it was a St. Bernard, and I was just thinking it would be so much better if it was a Doberman, because they're more scary. but yeah, I know it was just the way he builds up the plot and the characters. I mean, in the first 80 pages, I'd say Cujo was only in it twice. Oh, here we go.
In Playboy, and it was at school. Well, there you go. That's the kind of school that's Jesuit boarding school for you. So
958, was that when you were at boarding school, Mike?
Yeah. Interesting. Apparently, it was a Twilight Zone episode, though. She says previously. I don't know if Shawn skipped it or not. She said Examination Day is the first segment of the 6th episode from the season 85-86. Yeah.
The 80 series.
If it's a new, if it's a new one, I didn't see those, or I've hardly seen any of those.
New one, Shawn. It's 40 years ago.
Yeah, but Shawn, you got to watch them. There's some really good ones in there, and I feel like gutted now that it's a Twilight Zone episode. That's why I remembered it, but only vaguely. So yeah. Yeah,
that's probably where you did.
Yeah, so I'm supposed to be a Twilight Zone nut, and I didn't get it.
Going back to Cujo, I think Cujo should be a Chihuahua.
yeah, they can be.
Wouldn't that be the most fearsome thing? It's like the rabbit in Monty Python's Holy Grail, the fierce rabbit.
Yeah, it'd be like that. Yeah. I think Steve. I'll answer Steve. I think the point is that violence isn't always physical violence. It can be, it can cause mental hurt as much as physical hurt. I think that's the point of all
Yeah,
of that.
and I think what Steve's saying too is that's redefining a word, which people do. It's like, because violence, I don't think in most general definitions or something else.
If it surely just means causing harm or hurt, right?
Yeah, but then I guess you want to know what harm or hurt is. Yeah. Like, you know, is it physical? See, that's what I mean. It's a definition thing, and things do get changed. Like there's words now that I hear people talking about, and I'm going, huh?
Yeah,
that's not what I know the meaning of.
But I just think the bottom line with that sort of discussion is that, you know, the point. Do you know what I mean? Whatever, if you're going to go, oh yeah, but you still know the main point of what that person's saying. Do you know what I mean? Words are something to think about. Words can be harmful. Words are powerful. I mean, that's the point, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Well, they can lead to stuff. I think, and I agree with that. It's like the thing that Steve said, like with the guns, and you know, the guns don't kill people. People kill people. That type of thing. And you need both of them. People are the people. That's the problem, is people killing stuff. But guns are so easy. That's so easy. So the thing is, let's just give everybody spoons instead, and then let them go have it. You know, go at it. But
it's interesting you say guns make killing people easier, and I suppose it's true. You can kill more people, in one go with guns. But of course, the internet makes it easier to insult the greatest number of people, bully the greatest number of people.
It does as well. Yeah, but the thing with the guns, gun too, is because when you pick up a gun and you shoot somebody, that's lethal. But if you picked up a knife, there sometimes is a little, you got to get closer to the person. Like there's all these other psychological things, and that's why I said it should be spoons.
It's all about the spoons.
And yeah, and then spoons.
Can I just ask Mark, are you playing basketball while you're talking to us?
Elvis, yeah, he's bringing me toys to throw to him.
I love it. So. See, my dogs don't do that. My dogs are really boring.
Elvis wouldn't do it if I wasn't talking to you guys. He would be sitting there. Yeah. Wooden spoons.
That's like Steve was saying, like, and I think that's where it is. People have redefined words, and it's like,
well, that's another thing. The word fascist has been used by everybody now. Not about fascist.
Yeah.
I mean, I do it in a joking way. If someone say, me and my son do it a lot when we go, oh look, the shop's shut, fascist, you know, stuff like that. We'll do it as a joke. But people are saying that word all the time about everything. So yeah, I mean, the use of words changes. So is that a different thing? Like definition of words or the usage of words? I don't know. Is that different? But that's definitely a thing, isn't it? The way words are used.
Well, you would redefine it, and then you would use it in that new definition, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I came across something reading this book on the victims of Jack the Ripper recently, the 5. And, I always knew the term gay at that time meant jolly or cheerful, it was like we have a gay old time and all this kind of stuff. And they kept referring to the prostitutes as being gay women. And they didn't mean lesbians. They meant like jolly women. So it was a term for prostitutes. So it's like, these things really do change.
Well,
just need to bring it back down to prostitution and this kind of stuff.
Well, wait for this one. When I started working here in the UK, and it was in a call center, and so there was a lot of young people, and there was a 16-year-old girl, and everybody knows that cigarettes are euphemistically called fags. They're going to go have a fag, and then her saying was she was going to go suck on a fag. And then when I first heard that, and I just sort of thought, where I'm from, that has a completely different meaning,
But times change. It's like last week I did talk to my first years about rock and roll, and I
don't want to know, Steve.
That's a great comment. I find it fascinating talking to 16-year-olds. Remember, these are 16-year-olds who have got this completely different outlook on life that we do. Talking about them, about the morals, the promiscuity that was celebrated in the rock and roll songs, and the fact that was a new thing, that they were going from the values of the 50s to this sort of changing values of the late 50s into the early 60s, And all of this has been covered in the rock and roll songs. And I played them and I said, this is a really clear example of this. I played them The Wanderer, and they're all going, what? He sounds like an arsehole. It's like, well, yeah, but in the 50s, he would have been seen as a hero, and, women want to be with him, men want to be like him, all that sort of stuff. But then I also played a song called Pretty Girls Everywhere, and literally all of the words are just, oh my God, there's pretty girls everywhere. That's it. That's all the vocals. It's like lots of different ways of saying that. It's a great song, but clearly massively dated because it's just celebrating the male gaze, right? So for 16-year-olds, they're listening to that going, what's this bollocks? They just think it's outrageous. But that's because times change. It's just one of those things. And and so it's not just the words that change, but the way that people are going to interpret stuff is going to change.
It's funny, we talk about times change in some respects, and in other respects they don't at all. Like the conclusion to this book, there's obviously no spoilers. Everybody knows these women, of course, they died, right? I mean, they were victims of Jack the Ripper, and it's horrible. But she has a quotation from a judge's summing up, which isn't from the inquest of the Jack the Ripper victims. It's from 2000, and I can't remember if it was 2005 or 2010. And he's talking about was it the Suffolk Strangler or Sussex Strangler? He killed 5 women, 4 of them were prostitutes. Yeah. And he still has to make a case, the judge, in his summing up, that the jury must look at them as being women rather than just prostitutes. And you think, this is crazy. And there's almost no difference from the attitude there in 1888 to here we are in the 21st century, that the judge still feels compelled to have to say that, well, hang on, these were people's mothers and daughters and whatever else, regardless of the fact that they were sex workers, and that right. There's still some kind of taboos or some things we think of being more acceptable. I mean, I have to say, if anyone has an interest in it, it's a great book. This really good.
You talk about language changing and redefining things. You just said it there, sex workers. That's something new. That sounds much better than a whore, a prostitute. That sounds a lot better.
A gay woman.
Yeah.
Lady of the Night. Yeah.
But
Walker.
Yeah, but that's where language does change, and it can be helpful for things. But then again, somebody on the other side will say, well, no, these are horrible professions and they shouldn't be lauded or applauded for everything.
The worst thing is, the definition of prostitute in Victorian London at this time was so there were no confines to it. Yeah, so actually, at least 3 of the women definitely were not prostitutes, and yet we've all grown up believing all of the victims were prostitutes.
Yeah. Well, that's what I said before. Because if you're a woman out after dark by yourself, you're up to no good. Simple as that. There's no explanations. You're up to no good. You're trying to sell yourself, and nobody's going to believe otherwise.
There was an exact case not long before the Ripper murders. There was a case where a woman had been going shopping for something later at night, and it was a genuine thing. She had to get out and get something, and the police arrested her for a prostitute. She sued, or she took them to court or whatever, and the Metropolitan Police lost. And Charles Warren, who later who was head of the police force, had to issue kind of an apology and try to define what the police should consider a prostitute, which was if the woman herself actually considered herself as such, and that if she'd been arrested in the past for solicitation and found to have been guilty of being such. But of course they didn't listen. So
and what Steve says here is it's so essential to the longevity of the story. But see, the thing is too, and it'll even be more so now, it'll continue it, because if it gets into the popular belief that these were actually real people, and they actually, they weren't just prostitutes or just whores, that'll actually promulgate the story more, because people will talk about that because they've been misunderstood. And that's an interesting, it changes, but it continues the same.
There's been more, like, am I right in thinking there's been more novelizations and stuff about the victims and like from their perspective. Is that right?
Probably, yeah. Steve would probably know more. So
I think so. Oh no, you're right. I mean, this is nipping into my history degree. I did a module on witchcraft, and it is fascinating that the whole accusation of witches was done just because they didn't like someone in the village, and lots, some men were accused of being witches as well for the same sort of reason, just a way of getting someone killed.
It was called cancel. It was cancel culture of the time. And what? Yeah. Think of it. That's what it is. You don't like somebody, you don't like their opinions, then you tar and feather them in a certain way.
And it was mixed up with superstition and kind of paranoia as well.
Kelly.
Oh, see you, Kelly.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I think they're trying to reach that balance, aren't they? They're trying to make them into real people.
Yeah, we see, and then that's going to promulgate the story more. And like before, it was, I want to hear about these fallen women, and that was the big selling point of the story. Now it's hurting. What?
That's another old term, fallen women.
Yeah. Oh, that reminds me of the missionary with Michael Palin, where he, after going into Africa, and he's going to go into the East End of London around prostitutes, and he's telling his wife or somebody, saying that he's going to work with women who have hurt their knees.
It just made me think of Gray's knees. I was about to say that, and you said about Michael Palin. I love Michael Palin. Yeah.
Every society had their own witches in one form or another. Yeah. Most of them intent on what clearing up those women actually were. Yeah.
Well, the witch things I hated, and it's in some ways it was maybe even worse. I think that the Salem or Pendle or whatever witch trials was. You'll know this, Sean, from Zulu culture and stuff. And when I reread what's it called? King Solomon's Mines. For August of Adventures, it popped up again, and they also do it in the Shaka Zulu miniseries, and that's the witch smelling ceremonies amongst the Zulu tribe. So what would happen then is you would have, basically it was always people, well, not always, but pretty much mostly people who had either status or wealth that perhaps the king himself was jealous of, or he wanted to have those lands, or he wanted to have this amount of cattle. So magically these people would be smelled out as being a witch. And the problem was there wasn't even a trial. They were literally they had the witch smellers move through the audience, and imagine the fear, like this person's walking around, I smell a witch, it's you. And then literally the executioners dragged the person out, stabbed them to death immediately. And that was that. Terrifying.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. It's just their form of cancel culture. It just like you want to get rid of somebody, you do that. Every society has it, and today it's Twitter and that kind of thing that there's the cancel culture for I'm not saying that they're the same exact things, but the results are sometimes similar.
But then we'll go back to what Steve's saying. That Twitter doesn't actually kill you. It just makes you go into hiding.
Yeah. Again, yeah. or it makes but here's the funny thing. A writer can say something and then gets canceled and on cancel culture, but then the prime minister of this country says the exact same thing and nobody does anything. I thought, oh good, she's gone. Nope. She's not.
I thought you were talking about Boris. So I'm trying to.
No. It's just I'm talking about. I'm talking about J.K. Rowling saying that trans women aren't real women, and then Liz Truss said the same thing in something that they're not real. They're not actually women, but if they want to pretend to be, that's fine. More or less, that's what she said. So I thought, well, then she'll be canceled, but no.
Okay. But yeah, Boris said some awful things, didn't he?
Everything that came out of his mouth was.
That's horrendous. He said something about going to Bongo land, wasn't it, at one point? And he was talking about Africa.
Oh yeah, well, he talks about picking any smiles and all sorts of
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like
Before
it's
he was
just
like, how the hell someone
Watermelon
would actually-
smiles.
yeah.
smiles. And
Yeah, and
people
it's
go,
just
yeah, that's my prime minister. Strange
oh, it's
world.
just Boris. He's just Boris. It's like meeting someone down in the pub. Yeah, right. With his background, the Pfeffel.
Well, Prince Philip as well, right? You always used to listen to what he was going to say to people.
Yeah.
I think my favorite of his faux pas was, I think he was in Wales and he was at some school, I think, for the deaf, something like that. And there was a steel band playing and it was terrible. And he made some comment and then he's like, well, I'm not surprised they're deaf after this rack, or something like that. I can't remember, It's just like, oh, Jesus. But he got away with it all the time, didn't he? So
yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. So it's the status that's the big thing, and it's like you were saying with the Zulu one. If you got the right status, you got the right pull, you can be the person who does the canceling, and you got to wonder if there's something else behind some of this stuff. How people are canceled now. You got to wonder, is there something else behind there?
Definitely.
It makes me wonder at times.
I'm gonna have to go, guys. I don't know if you're gonna carry on, but I'm going to disappear. Are you guys carrying on for a bit, or?
I'm all right. I can stick around if you want.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, we'll see if the comments have stopped, but we'll see how that goes.
Everyone leaves. I go, all right, fair enough.
Take some medicine. No. I'll probably watch, but I probably should kind of maybe go to bed. So
okay.
Take care, guys. Great to see you, Gareth, and see you soon, mate. See you later, Sean. See you later, everyone.
No, I wasn't expecting this cover. It always goes everywhere, but it's great. It's like I'm surprised we didn't have any trolls.
For anyone watching this, I sent an email to Sean saying, "So what are we going to talk about?" And he said, "Well, we'll just see what happens." And clearly, that happened. Yeah. But yeah, here we go. I mean, it's important stuff. It's just we probably intend to have a light chat about nothing. But there we go.
Well, I want to get back to those science fiction. Well, we'll chat after. Once we end the stream, stay on for a few minutes.
Because you could tell me which ones I need to look for as well. Because I think I've got probably about 12 cinematic books now.
Yeah, 28, 29, 30.
So,
it depends on what you call a novel, like a few things.
Tell me your favorites, and I'll know straight away if I've got them in the last few.
Well, there's Way Station. There's City. There is Why Call Them Back from Heaven. All Flesh is Grass, and Project Pope. There's a lot of them that I really like.
Well, All Flesh is Grass. And
All Flesh is Grass. Yeah. Project Pope.
Well, Why Call Them Back from Heaven and Project and All Flesh is Grass are still in the shop. So do I need to go back and get them?
Yeah, either for me or we'll talk, and then after we finish. Words. Whoa, that came up funny. Words plus numbers, the most powerful tools mankind has created for reference. Read the Tower, the Bible, and what were the Gospels afraid of, or the God? Sorry. Oh, geez, my eyesight is going bad. Afraid of what that mankind would become as powerful as they are. Yeah, like words are powerful. But they are things like that. They're only given the power that other people give them. It's to me, it's as simple as that. If you don't give those words power, if people don't give those words power, they don't have any power.
We can roll this back to Ray Bradbury and say that the words are powerful message is clearly a theme in Fahrenheit 451, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because that's the reason why they want to burn the books and why the books shouldn't be burned, because those, because words are powerful, those words still need to exist.
But what I'm saying is because they've decided they're powerful, and because other people are using those words to do other things, which become powerful things, and so forth. But if you just decide that, you know, those words aren't, like, you know, if somebody sends me a message and I don't think anything of it, I don't care, those words aren't powerful for me. It's the same thing as, like, I guess is it similar to going back to where, you know, you put a witch's eye on you, or the hex or something like that, you know, in some primitive societies where they believe that they've been cursed, and they actually get ill. It actually happens.
Well, there's a more real version of that, which is fairly recent, which is obviously what happened to Salman Rushdie. So
exactly, yeah.
You know, you write the satanic verses, and literally, you've got a religious leader saying it's okay to kill him. You know, and put literally almost like a hit on him, and you know that's quite real, isn't it? I mean, but
I'm not saying it's not real. People make it real. People are the ones that make it real. The words in of themselves are not. It's the interpretation and what people do with those words. It's the same thing as science. Science in of itself, unless you create a virus that will attack human DNA and kill everybody, yeah, that's a little different. But science in of itself, it's the use of it. But then again, it's the use of that knowledge that can be done.
Science is now in some corners of America anyway. I don't know if it's true for Britain, but you hear some people arguing that science is a belief, don't you?
Yeah,
which is the weirdest thing ever. It's such a backward thing to say, and it's so that they can push an agenda. But,
that's the other thing. It's like the belief, like, you know, like it's getting to a point where they'll hear something a politician says. They say X, Y, and Z, like go out and kill your neighbor, and you hear it that way, but then somebody else will say, oh, they're saying, oh, we need to take care of our own.
Yeah,
different meanings, different complete meanings, but the result is the same.
Alexis is saying I need to go back to the shop, isn't it? Alexis says I need to get back and get that book.
Yeah. We'll talk after we're finished. I'm not sure. Let's see. Words say it all, kind of thingish. Well, they do, but scary real. Yeah. Words are symbols. Well, they can be. It all depends on what people want them to be. That's the thing.
Well, I guess that's the idea of them being symbols is that they can be interpreted.
Exactly.
You know, so you know, they're never enough. Words are never enough, which is actually a line for one of my songs. But we won't go down that road. But yes.
Well, no, talk about that. Yeah, you have a band. You've got music out. You've got fiction, poetry.
I don't know if you can. I think you can probably find it online. You can definitely find it on Spotify. But I wrote a song called "We Just Hide Away," and it was actually the whole song is about truth, and the first verse is about how words never really convey the truth, and the second verse is how time sometimes goes against the truth. Third one is about how things can be interpreted badly. But the chorus just keeps saying, you never know the truth. You never know the heart of what someone is going through. And the last line is a reference to what was happening to me at the time, while I wrote the song. And it was just the line is, we just hide away. And we just hide away. Oh, we just hide away till the dust settles down again. That's the last line of the chorus. And it's like, if there's some untruths being said, sometimes you're powerless to go against it, because words they can't compete sometimes, you know. So yeah, that's what that song's about. It's a song that I started doing again in lockdown when I did the lockdown gigs, but it's such a quiet song. We didn't used to do it much in the band because we tend to do the big kind of loud songs in the band. But it's one of my favorite songs.
Sorry, with the lockdown gigs, did you actually play somewhere, or was this streaming that you did?
This was so during lockdown. I did a lot of songs in this room, gigs in this room, streaming through Facebook. So that was often with me and my son. So he's an amazing guitarist, and we do the harmonies and stuff. And it was really nice because we could do songs that we didn't necessarily do in the band because we'd learn them that week and we'd add them to what we were doing. So we added loads and loads of songs over lockdown. which now I want to do in the band. Oh, thanks, Alexis. Yeah, it's the band is called Bemis, so it's Bemis, and they are on Spotify, and there is a YouTube channel called Topic, I think, which has some Bemis stuff on there, and I think I don't know how it works, but I think they just grab them from the digital distributors and put them on that channel. But I think We Just Hideaway might be on YouTube on that front as well. But yeah, no, thanks for being interested, because yeah, I'd love you to hear the song. I've written a lot of songs over the years. I've been writing songs for 30 years. So yeah, there's some shortcuts and some ways that I feel like I know how to write a song, and
yeah, well, you've written some you've got a book of poetry as well, don't you? And a rock and roll novel.
yeah. So the song, the poetry one, I was really pleased the way that turned out, and I've got a couple of things that are in my head, but I'm actually going to work on a poetry one next, which is going to be a thematic poetry book. And what I want to do is create a town through a book of poetry. So each poem or most of the poems will be a different character, and they're all kind of intertwining. That's what I want to do. So it's a bit ambitious, but I'd love it if it works. So that's my plan for the next few months, to try and work on that.
Sounds a bit like what's his name's Dylan Thomas's
Under Milkwood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wondered if that, because there was something in the back of my mind thinking, am I just nicking Dylan Thomas's idea? But it'll be my own version of that.
There's been lots. Like I've got something I think of. I can't. Well, anyway, there's one that's basically, it's called An Inn, and it's basically poems about that inn, the people who are there, about the inn, the history, everything. Cool. So yeah, it's something that it has been done, and I really think it's kind of cool when it is done.
Like a setting for it. Yeah, so that's one plan. But yeah, my rock and roll book is a science fiction book about a band that are made up of different species, and they go up against a music promoter that's actually a gangster. So that element of it is from real life. But yeah, it's the whole point of that book is to make you laugh and to kind of parody what I've experienced in music for the last however many years. But because I love science fiction so much, I do it through science fiction. So just silly things like the lead singer's got 3 heads, so sings 3-part harmony by himself, that kind of thing. And when I write a sequel to that, he's going to go off and do a solo album, but his 3 heads can never agree on what the solo album should be, so it kind of falls apart. So yeah, it's kind of a Hitchhiker's I guess, in humor tone, So yeah, Brownie up gang.
That's good. Let's see, all get the all.
Yeah. So Alexis must be a musician as well, maybe a sound engineer or something. But yeah. Oh no, you got music producers. Oh, that's kind of harsh. Music promoters, I know, can be a bit dodgy. Music producers, I found quite lovely. So I don't know. I don't know what his experience has been like. But yeah, promoters can be a little bit like. I've met some promoters that never make money and they're absolutely lovely, and I've met some promoters that absolutely fleece the event and the artist and sometimes the local council and don't kind of care about the actual people playing. I've met people like that before. So some promoters can be like that, but producers tend to be quite nice. I don't know. I'd love to know Alex's experience with that. Maybe he's writing something now. He's going to tell us something happened to him. You gotta wait.
Yeah, there is a delay in.
Have we still got people watching? Because it's just been.
Yeah, well, it's dropping a little bit. We're now down to 9, so we'll sort of wind it up, I think, very soon. But we'll see if Alexis. There it goes. Sorry, she meant promoter.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I think it takes. I mean, some people become music promoters because they have a friend that they want to promote and they just sort of get into the idea of organizing gigs. But some of them just go into it because they think it's an easy way of making money. And it really isn't. It's one of the hardest ways to make money. You got to do it right. Mark's there. Hello, Mark. You should nip on.
Well, he's like he says he doesn't have COVID, but he's got all the symptoms of COVID. But it's probably just a flu, a cold. And
yeah,
that's
well, that's the problem. People don't know what it is, what's going on now, do they? Is it that? Is it that? You know, but hopefully it'll get better soon. Because if he can still play basketball with Elvis, then we're all good.
Yeah.
Cornwall.
Cornwall, yeah.
Oh, Cornwall's lovely. I've been there twice, and it took our first family holiday was in Cornwall. It was only about 6 years ago or something. It was me and my wife and the 2 kids. We went to Cornwall, and we went back the next year. It was so brilliant. We loved it. It's really lovely down there.
I think I've only.
Go on.
No, I was going to say I think I've only been into it a little bit when I was down in Bournemouth, Boscombe, and I travel a little bit around there, and I think I went to probably dipped into Cornwall, but I can't remember where it was. Yeah,
there's lots of really nice scenic areas in Cornwall, isn't there?
Yeah,
definitely a very chilled place.
But I think we'll call it a night. I think there. Thanks, Gareth, for stopping by, and the Limp Biscuit Mark that left. The what do they call it? Man flu?
Are you saying he's a hold on? Different expression news business. Oh, okay. Yes, that's fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was interestingly enough, I don't know if Alexis is interested in Claire North. It's an author that I've raved about. But her day job, if you like, is as a sound engineer. So she does lots of live sound for gigs and that. And she was saying in the interview she did on the Media Death Cult channel that she still gets, even though she's been doing it for donkey's years, she's still like, when she goes to a venue to start setting up sound, there's someone looking around and go, well, where's the bloke? And she's like seen as not the actual serious person in charge of this, surely, because she's a woman. So yeah, I mean, she was definitely saying that. That was kind of quite revealing when she said that. So is Alexis a is Alexis a musician or
you should have to ask. I'm not sure. Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, Mark, you see, this is where the meaning behind the words as well. There's all these subtleties when words are said. And see, that's the thing. In text, you don't know. If I would have said those words in text, you would never know, or my inflection of the way I said it.
Yes. What do you play? Tell me more about what you play. This is awesome. And you, as a musician from Cornwall, are you in a band? Do you play live? Do you do recordings? You got an album out? Tell us about where we can hear your stuff.
A lot of questions there, Gareth.
Yeah,
you're a few minutes to type.
That's a good point, actually. I'm supposed to be nagging the guy that's supposed to be mixing our single, because we're supposed to be releasing a single soon, and I've left it. I've been so busy starting term that I forgot about this single we're supposed to be releasing. It's really excited about it, but we need to get the producer to mix it.
Do you have a break coming up soon, or like I guess to the?
No, well, in the end of October we have our half term, so like literally in the staff room, everyone's going, can't wait till half term. So yeah, it'll happen soon. I mean, it's the first half term was all right. I mean, the new first years are lovely, and that's all good. But yeah, it's all very hectic. It's always funny. It's always a funny beginning. Has Alexis not said yet what they do?
No, nothing yet. She might be typing a long message. You asked a lot.
Yeah, I did ask him a lot of questions. Yeah, she thought I'll sod it. I'll email him.
But yeah, no, that's like I many years ago, I sort of thought I'd go into. I was contemplating doing teaching and like history.
Oh, cool.
I'm glad I haven't. I'm glad I didn't go through. I don't know if I could. There's certain things that are hampered by teachers that I just couldn't. I couldn't do. I just couldn't do.
Yeah, it's become. I do think it's harder and harder, and I think it's become the subject side of it is such a small part of the job. You know,
that's the problem.
about dealing with just dealing with them in those many different definitions of what that means. You know, the subject stuff is such a small part of it. But, you know, if you feel like you're getting somewhere with it, it's all good. You know, you just have to kind of appreciate the good bits amongst.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, because it's the kind of profession, like there's a few things I always thought in life that you can do that you actually feel like you're making a difference somewhere, even if it's just a few people. And then there's like working in a call center.
yeah, which is just mind numbing. And at the end of every day, you think, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
That's
the way I was when I did do that kind of thing.
My daughter's just become a teacher, and we were talking about it because we work in the same college as well, which is really nice. So before that, I didn't see her that often. Now I see her every day, which is great. But she said to me, because this is her first year of proper teaching, and she said, the thing is, sometimes you have a class that's just really hard. You feel like it's a real struggle all the way through it, and it doesn't matter if one person, before everyone's leaving, and then someone turns to you and says, "Oh, thanks for that, miss. I really appreciate that," and then walk out. And she said that makes it all worthwhile, and that's true, isn't it?
Yeah, no, yeah, I think it is. Yeah. I'm not too sure about that, but thank you.
Yeah, the burnt out thing is a really good point, because you get so much pressure to do so many different things, and it's just like, where am I going to fit all this in? And you get all this admin to do, and you have to sort of do all these extra jobs that aren't necessary to do with teaching, and so much that a lot of teachers get burned out. It's tough.
When I went to a pretty well, I went around to a lot of different high schools when I was in high school in Canada. Some of them were very tough schools where there were actually guns, and this is Canada. Occasionally, there was prostitution. There was, all sorts of things.
And that was just you, right?
What?
That was just you.
But no, there was a lot of problems there. But I had some really good teachers. And the thing was that they took the curriculum, and they did different things with it. They didn't just make it, vanilla and this is what you learn. There was different ways that you could learn. And that's where I don't think you're allowed to go outside of the parameters of teaching.
I'd say it's the opposite, actually. That now there's a lot of pressure to not be like an old-fashioned teacher, and some teachers struggle to constantly think of new ways of doing something. So I think that's one of the issues with it. You're always being judged and kind of almost there's almost a surveillance on whether or not you're being creative enough, or whether you're not being different enough, or thinking of new ways of doing something.
Okay, and that's changed. Yeah,
it's a big thing now. There is an extreme though, where when I was doing A levels, I did classics A level. I did drama, history, and classics. And in my classics A level lessons, it was insane. Like, the teacher used to sit us down, and he'd get out his Iliad, or he'd get out his Odyssey, or he'd get his Aristophanes, and he'd literally just read from it. So we'd be like reading with him, which we could do at home. And then he'd read his notes, and we'd copy his notes as he read them. So we'd dictate his notes, and that was a lesson. And he'd never deviate from them. It was literally just him reading out his notes he'd made that we'd copy out. The worst teaching ever. It's ridiculous. But there we go. I got my A level, so it's fine. And I got to love the Odyssey.
Yeah. Well, I had a prof at university that I thought was really great. It was very only short-lived that he taught. He was a Jesuit. Well, I think a lapsed Jesuit, a priest. Let's put it that way. If Steve was talking, and but anyway, he would chain smoke, and you could tell he's had a few drinks under him as well. And he'd come in with little slips of paper, and usually it would be a receipt, and he'd have stuff written on that he just sort of 10 minutes before wrote that he's going to talk about, and he would just riff on them. And it was fabulous. Like he knew what he was going to talk about until 10 minutes. Yeah. And then we had no clue because there was no curriculum, and it was just fabulous. It was absolutely fabulous.
I had lectures like that in my degree as well. Music is life. Oh yeah. The last scene is that band of music in the ship sailing in or sailing out. Oh, okay. I haven't seen the video. I mean, you've hit on something where that song, the original version of the song, is one of my all-time favorite moments in music history. I love Simon Garfunkel's "Sound of Silence." The Disturbed version is a really good cover. I haven't seen the video though, so I don't know what you mean. But is the ship sailing in or sailing out? The song is about the lack of communication between people, isn't it? Let's go with sailing in then. if we, absolutely.
Vanilla feeling stigma.
I love vanilla ice cream. Vanilla's cool. You're talking about ice cream.
Yeah, is that I'm not too sure. Is that I'm lost there because I don't see anything.
It is a bit harsh on the flavor of vanilla, isn't it? Because it makes it sound. I'll watch the video. It's a cool version. It was a shock to everybody, didn't it? Have you seen what Alexa's talking about, Sean?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't know the video.
It's a metal band, and they did a very sensitive version of the song. So some people do metal versions of songs, they just make them louder. And this was really good because you could tell that he absolutely got what the lyrics were about, and he did this fantastic vocal performance. And it's got strings in it, and it's really sensitive version. It's brilliant, and worthy of a song as great as "Sound of Silence." You know the original, right?
Yeah,
yeah, amazing song.
Yeah, no, I don't know this one at all. I know everybody does new stuff, but I'm not up on it at all.
Actually, something that's coming out in December on my channel. I've scheduled so much stuff on my channel because I had some free time in the summer. But I've done a top 10 lyricists video. So I don't know if Alexa would be interested in that, but it's my favorite 10 lyricists, and I perform 2 songs in the video. So I kind of bookend the video with 2 songs. So I start with one song, which is a Bruce Cockburn song, and then I talk about 10 different lyricists, and then I do "Sound of Silence" at the end because I think Paul Simon was one of the greatest lyricists, or is one. I mean, still around, isn't he? He is one of the greatest lyricists around. I think his lyrics are amazing. But I talk about 10 different people that you want to see. You got another message?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll take a look at it. I just not familiar. What's the band's name that's doing it?
Disturbed.
Disturbed. Okay.
Yeah, and their stuff is usually really heavy, but it's not really heavy. This version, it's got a bit of an edge to it, but it's not heavy. Yeah. Oh, thanks. That's cool. Yeah, that's coming out. I'm pretty sure it's like the first week of December. I think it's scheduled for. I get confused. I'm moving around a little bit sometimes as well. I feel like I want people to watch it now. I'll move it forward, but I've tried to put up stuff. I've got like videos that are scheduled for like normal videos scheduled till February, but I've got those 100 album things that nobody ever watches.
Oh yeah.
That goes up to May 2025.
Jesus. No, yeah, those shorts are weird because I was doing the shorts and some would get a lot of hits and others like a week later I had two views, and it's I don't know where like what rhyme or reason it was, so I stopped doing them.
Yeah, it's weird because it'd be interesting to know what you think of this because on the one hand you think, oh well, it won't take long to do it, just do it, but then on the other hand, does it harm your channel if it looks like there's lots of low counts on some of the videos? I don't know.
I don't know. It's because I do the same thing, but I don't make them shorts. I just make them a video. Like I just hold up the book in front like this and read the back.
Yeah,
and
I like that.
What I've been doing. And I started them with shorts. Now I just do them the other way. So they're about less than a minute long anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird the way that I've got such a massive spectrum of things that have had hardly any views and things that have had crazy views. I mean, most of the stuff have been fairly low, but I mean, once it's about hitting the algorithm, innit? Because I've got one video that goes way more than anything else, and I guess it's because it reached a certain point and then started getting spread about by YouTube, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, and I like there's stuff that I hardly get any views on, but I'm not stopped doing them because I enjoy doing them. And there's like 5 people that like them. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
that's
she's doing it
enough
for the
for
right
me.
people. Yeah,
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 that's enough for me. You know.
yeah. Well, it's like the 100 album thing. I just feel like it was good for me to do it because I did it to try and like look at my CDs again that I was ignoring because I haven't got a way of playing them. And you know, it's like they're always there. So if people do find they look up the album, they'll see me talk about it, and maybe it will spur them on. I don't know, but
Yeah. Well, see, the thing is, when I'm going through stuff, I don't see this. I don't know if I'm the same as everybody else. If you do a proper video, like a full length video, it comes up in my feed. The shorts don't. Every so often I see some of your shorts, but not very often.
yeah,
They
yeah.
don't come up.
It's like you got to look up shorts or something, isn't it? And then you're
Exactly.
gonna
I think so.
get,
Yeah. And I just haven't, and I think a lot of people, I just haven't thought of doing that, you know?
well, oops. I get the impression that the shorts, by most people, the shorts are just nonsense and dancing for 40 seconds or something. I think.
Well, that's sort of TikTok sort of type stuff.
Yeah.
And then, or they'll have music and they'll show some books or something like that. I think there's all sorts, and that's like, I just thought I'd try something like that. There's ones that, there's music ones that people do. They just play a little snippet of a song, and that's it. And then they just go on, and they do a whole bunch of these, and I've
Yeah.
seen those.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
see what they do is they cross pollinate stuff. I see that stuff more on Instagram. The Instagram, they're not called shorts, are they? They're Instagram reels,
Yeah, yeah.
reels, and
I'm
that's
with
where
you.
I was putting some of the shorts that I was doing like this because there was right format. And then I went on TikTok too. Whoa.
Yeah, I was on TikTok for 5 minutes. I hated it. I thought it was well weird.
Well, the thing was, like, if you want views, like, I got a heck of a lot more views on the TikTok ones
Yeah,
than
so did
anywhere else.
I. Yeah, but I mean, but the thing that I had the most views for, which is why I did a little apology for this a couple of weeks ago or a week ago or something. The most views I had on TikTok was me literally dancing in front of the camera on my chair to
Yeah.
yeah. And I thought, and I just had this mad moment last week when I did the same thing on YouTube, and then I was like, "What am I doing?" You know, that's if you compare that to all the videos I put all this effort in, that's just stupid. So I took it off, and then I thought I'd do an apology if someone had seen it.
Do that, and then at the end, go right up to the camera with your book and say, "Buy my book at whatever," or "Buy the CD."
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Actually, I need to find different ways of advertising your stuff.
Why not? Why not?
Yeah. I'm terrible at advertising though. I don't do it.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love your poetry readings though. It's cool that you do that.
Music you play. Yeah, you should play it on Twitch.
See,
I don't know how Twitch works.
I don't know Twitch either. I use Twitch for logging into play D&D actually. So I play D&D every Monday. There's another bit of information that you don't need. But yeah, I play D&D every Monday, and I use my Twitch account. It's the only thing I use it for. I don't even know why I use Twitch. I could use something else, but I just thought games, Twitch. But yeah, I do use Twitch for that. But I don't know about playing my music on it. I should have a look.
Well, I think any of these are being used for anything and everything. But thanks for the poetry. That just reminds me. I don't think I have one recorded for tomorrow, so I've got to record some more. And they're short. That's the good thing. That if somebody doesn't want to listen to me for very long, they can get something short.
The next thing that's going up on my channel is actually on the 10th, which is 2 days time, isn't it? Because it's World Mental Health Day on the 10th.
Okay.
So I did a video. I kind of fast forwarded a video I'd already scheduled for November, which was me talking about. I actually recorded it in August when I was having a really good day, and then put up this video about appreciating when you have a good day. So that was kind of.
I remember that one. Yeah.
No, it's another similar one.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. But then I also did another one where I sang a song. So there is a video going up of me singing as well on the 10th as well. So, yeah, I did 2 videos because I thought it'd be nice to do a song. Because I do like the fact that my channel was books, songs, and other magic, and not just books. Because I like the fact that I can nip in some song related stuff as well.
Oh yeah, mine's just my name, so I can do whatever I want.
Yeah. I like
still watching. Tomorrow at 5 o'clock, British summertime. I guess it's still British summertime. Will be me as the castaway on Desert Island Books.
Who's interviewing you? Is it Mark?
No. Well, if you didn't watch last week, it's Steve.
Oh, it is Steve.
We recorded them back to back.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I can't wait to see that. That's awesome. The desert. I tell you what, Sean, the Desert Island Books thing is so brilliant. I mean, I was very, very honoured to be on it. But all of them are so brilliant. It's really interesting.
No,
they're so personal, aren't they?
Yeah, that's the thing, and I think they're fun to do. I accept that I'm finding a problem now recording on this medium here, because when I record on it and I wait 2 months before it goes out, it thinks that it's been streamed 2 months ago, so it's down at the bottom of the pile.
Oh, I've noticed that. It'll suddenly appear for the first time, or the first time I've seen it, and it'll say it's been streaming for a month, and I go, has it?
Yeah. So what I'm trying to do now is I'm not recording anymore until I get to that point where I'm starting, and it'll be only a week behind, maybe, or two at most, and I'm gonna have to take pot luck, because then I gotta, I'm gonna have to deal with everybody's schedule. You may not be available that week, or something like that. At least the way I'm doing it now, it's just I just can't do it any other way. I don't have the technology at the moment.
Yeah. Then you can put them up when you want, can't you?
Yeah. Is that where Yellow Day 2 from?
I don't know.
I don't know.
It might be. I could look that up. It'd be interesting to know that. Is that a thing? Are you saying it probably is that?
I don't know. I don't know if there is anything like that. The only thing I know for color stuff, isn't it just the LGT? Yeah. That's the only thing that I know, that there's colors, but that's all I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you see, but it's not YouTube's problem. It's because I record on this. It's a live stream, but it's private, and it's not working out the way it should be. And it's also causing problems. I've tried to do interviews with people, and they're having difficulties, technical issues on their end. So I have to wait.
Is it one other thing where you find it easier to do it live? Is that easier than doing it, recording it?
Oh yeah, they're doing it live, because as soon as this is done, it goes on to my account, and it's now you can play it. You can play it as a normal video. But you see, when I do it for the Desert Island Books, it does the same thing. It goes on there, but it's private.
Right.
And then I'm not putting it up until 2 months from now.
Yeah.
And that's the issue. That's the issue. Because if I could record it and keep it on my device and then upload it when I'm ready, different matter. Or upload it immediately, it still doesn't think it doesn't think that it's been streamed 2 months ago, even though it's like the ones you're recording now that you're saying like 2025 or whatever, they won't say that it was streamed 2 years ago. No, they won't. But if you did it on here, it would say that.
Right. It must be something about it records the date or something.
Yeah, and that's an issue.
And one of the funny things I found with Yellow was the synth band, wasn't it? The electronic band from Germany. They did that. Okay. They did that one. But
okay, take your word for it.
But I forgot what it's called. But the funny thing with me uploading that far ahead is that YouTube has got confused, because they were putting it in order, but once it goes into the early part of 2025, it stops being in order. So I've done the 100 albums, but my 100 is like fourth down, and then it goes like 96, 98, 99. Like it's all out of order, but the dates are in order. But the way it's scheduled I'm hoping it's going to come up in the dates I've said, but yeah, when you look at it on the actual, dashboard or whatever, they're all in a funny order, so it does get confused. But hopefully it'll come up all right. If not, never mind.
Well, yeah. Well, you can keep an eye on it as it gets closer. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You
Hopefully
can
it'll align again. Yeah.
But anyway, I think we're going to. Oh, hi, Vigilindi. But I think we're going to wrap things up now because we've been going 2 hours and over 2.25 hours. And I want to speak to you about something, Gareth, before after. So,
Okay.
very important issue.
See, so often that Captain America phrase comes into my head. I could do this all day, but clearly that would be stupid. I'm going to get a cup of tea at some point.
Yeah, no, it's fun, and it's amazing how time flies. Doing this as well. That's the thing. But everybody, thank you everybody for stopping by and listening to us rant away, or me rant away. That is. We'll see you next time. Wednesday, Mark and I will be back.
Thanks a lot, guys.